Hey, what's up everybody? This is Ace and I'm back with another reaction video. Here we go. Alright, so first I gotta apologize. I'm currently in the process of moving, which has been monopolizing much of my time, which is why I haven't been doing too many reaction videos lately. However, when I finally get to where I'm going, which will be very soon, I'll be able to upload more. So with that being said, we've come to the end of Madonna's debut album era. What an excursion, and I haven't even scratched the surface yet. From the top, I have to say that I overwhelmingly enjoyed the album. I think it does an admirable job of blending urban with R&B, with pop, while steering it all into the direction of dance music. I think the production does a great job of making a youthful, vibrant, and a fun album without it going too far into the territory of teeny bopper and ultimately being dismissible. I'm not going to say that it doesn't sound like a product of its time, but I will say that for an album that's almost 40 years old, I think it's aged very well. It doesn't come off like a trite example of something from the 1980s. The album cover is cool. I think the close-up of her face on an album simply titled Madonna leaves no question of who the album is about. I think it was smart to self-title the album. That way no song overwhelms her name as she was making it known to the public. So I think this album came out at the perfect time. Even though it was still relatively early 80s, by this point there had been enough distance between the end of the 1970s for the climate that Madonna emerged in to be seen as like fresh and new. I think the backlash against disco seemed like it wasn't such a hot issue by this point. It seemed like by 1983 the world wanted to dance again, and so I think this album may have been right on time. I said in my wrap-up reaction to Queen's 1973 debut album that it sounded like it was immersed in a new present-day sound just as the decade was finding its identity. I think the same can be said about the Madonna album too. I feel like the third year of every new decade seems to be when the music and entertainment and pop culture climate, it really kind of sheds what was left of the previous decade and begins to find its own personality. You know, even though it's dance music, I think the Madonna album does not sound like it was something that could have come out like 4 or 5 years earlier. It sounds like something from when the 1980s had developed its own character. Still not feeling this one. It's stiff, mechanical, and pretty stale. The production seems a bit asleep on the job. Lyrically, it's very callow and melodramatic. It sounds like something a 12-year-old wrote in her diary. Like, hey, Billy McAllister, I know you were sitting next to another girl while I was out sick. So I think there were several other songs on the album that dealt with relationships that were going bad. Ultimately, I think this one was just one too many. It was very extra and it really does nothing for the album in my opinion. Holiday is probably the grooviest and most expensive sounding song on the album. I can understand why it became her first big hit. It certainly has this X factor about it that makes it a standout moment on the album. The production is sleek. The track is bright but still has somewhat of a dark essence to it. Madonna's vocals are smooth and display the most range, going from like a head voice to an almost chest voice. The message behind the song, I think is great. You know, with so much chaos in the world, you know, let's just take a day to disengage from it and just enjoy life. So yeah, Holiday is cool. The extremely vibrant chords set against the rhythmic beat makes this a cool urban pop track. Lyrically, it's simplistic yet cagey. The hook is infectious. The soulful backing vocals set against Madonna's more girlish squeals I think creates a good balance. It's my understanding that this is the highest charting single release. I get why. It's definitely the most overtly commercial song on the album. I think the hook, the whole Starlight, Star Bright hook is very fun and memorable. The video for it, I would say the video is pretty basic, but the production is still very clean, and I think it does a good job of showing Madonna's unique charisma. Also, according to the comments, the male dancer in her video was her brother. So, you know, that was an interesting note too. So yeah, Lucky Star is pretty cool. I like Lucky Star. Burning Up is dope. The premise of being unwilling to accept someone's unrequited affection doesn't always play out well in song, but Madonna delivers it with so much attitude and edge that she manages to make herself seem like a boss while understatedly begging for this guy's affection. I think the rock edge set against the urban dance beat makes the song ear-popping and instantly memorable. I like Madonna's slightly harder and deeper vocals here. She sounds more assertive and less childish than on the other tracks. The video is abstract and sort of all over the place, but I think it ultimately did what it was supposed to do, which was show off Madonna's style, overt sexiness, and brass confidence. Everybody, come on, dance and sing. Everybody, get up and do your thing. Everybody is interesting. It's very dark, plotting, and moody. It's the funkiest song on the album, and it's also the most transparent. From its production elements to its lyrics, everything about it is front-facing with no subtlety to it. Lyrically, it's sheer and idealistic, but Madonna delivers it in a way that's very optimistic and assured. You can hear how much she believed in the song. You know, it sounds like it was the most grassroots, like they had to do it on limited constraints without much time or resources to go back and do a lot of tweaking and remixing, which ultimately makes the song very honest. I get the feeling that Madonna is the most proud of this song, like it's probably her baby of the bunch. The video is cool, simplistic, and straightforward, which goes with the song. As I said in the reaction, you know, it feels like its own little micro era, you know, that somewhat feels kind of separate from the rest of the album. You know, the overall formula of the song matches matches the theme of the album, but the production style is noticeably different. Yeah, man, I think that just makes it that much more interesting. So yeah, everybody is cool. Oh, it's physical attraction. This is the most atmospheric track on the album and is arguably the best song to play at a house party. I like how rhythmic it is with the double clap snare beat, the subtle rhythm guitars, the piano arrangement, and the almost freestyle synthesizers. The backing vocals do a good job of almost co-piloting the song. It has a strong narrative, candid lyrics, and backed by a seamless melody that makes it that much more enthralling. I would say this song and Burning Up almost feel like warning shots to the public of who Madonna is and what she was planning to do with her image and her career. You know, I said in the reaction to everybody that it was good that these two songs were back to back because I do think that they play off each other well. Borderline is well written and has a laid back yet determined feel to it that keeps your attention from beginning to end. You know, even though the tempo is upbeat and danceable, it has something of a ballad quality to it that makes it that much more compelling. Madonna sounds very sincere in her delivery. Lyrically, it's so earnest that even if you're not in a relationship like what's being described, you can still kind of put yourself in the shoes of the protagonist and relate to it. The music video is easily the best of all the videos from this album. I like the punk rock hip hop storyline. It really shows how Madonna has a penchant for visual story, so that was cool. This was hard because Borderline is so good and deserving, but the factors of this song narrowly ascends it to the pole position for me. Think of Me has this breezy bounce to it that I find infectious. The track itself is so dope that I would listen to an instrumental of it and still get hype. The keyboard and guitar patterns during the hook are just fire. The up-tempo, danceable R&B beat was perfect. What else? What else? Madonna's vocal delivery, I think, is very fervent, and I really think you can hear her at her most passionate here. Um, yeah, I really just enjoyed the structure and the flow of the lyrics, the ad libs, and the backing vocals. You know, someone said in the comments that everything, every element that defines the album is sort of represented on this particular song, and I completely agree. So, yeah, Think of Me is my favorite song on the album. So this album is very, very solid, and it really wasn't that easy to rank. You know, it's a given that I know it would be dead last, but the other seven songs are all good and actually pretty evenly matched. It was just a matter of what songs you enjoyed the most. Um, on the exterior, some might be tempted to dismiss this album as being, I guess, sort of lightweight pop fluff, but I think under the surface, it's actually well assembled and very clever. I can't help but think that it's probably the urban and rhythmic undertones of the album that keeps it well preserved. Sonically, it's very consistent. Madonna seemed to know what she wanted for the album to be, and she stayed true to that theme. While it covers an array of topics, I would say if there's a running theme here, it seems to be her presenting an array of subject matters that are bold, rebellious, naively arrogant, and sort of pointedly determined. In the wrong hands, songs like Lucky Star, Burning Up, Physical Attraction could have seemed either dismissively silly or off putting, but Madonna's lioness persona gives it enough charm and attitude that even the more bubblegum moments on the album seem boss level. Vocally, Madonna had ebbs and flows. She's singing in this incredibly high pitched register throughout the entire album that worked on some songs better than others, but it always came off earnest. It's my understanding that Madonna was dismissed by critics when she emerged as someone who wouldn't last that long. And on the surface, you know, a lot of what she seemed to be at that time, I think, was also represented in a lot of other female artists at that time. I mean, you had people like Cyndi Lauper, you know, those Prince proteges, Vanity and Apollonia. You had the Mary Jane girls. You had Tina Marie when she was in her more pop rock stage. So Madonna may have seemed like another one, but I think she was more in control. You know, she had a clearer idea of what she wanted to do, and she didn't seem like she was on the string of a puppeteer. You know, which is impressive for a female artist, particularly at that time. So yeah, I think, you know, in hindsight, it was kind of obvious that there was something different about Madonna. Since this was a debut album, I imagine that the brass behind the scenes likely weren't pouring uber millions into the recording, marketing, and promotion cost of the album. It probably took a small handful of people who were devoted to the project to keep it flowing. And I get the feeling that Madonna herself was laser focused on doing whatever it took to ensure that the train kept moving. And I guess, you know, as they say, the rest is history, you know, because this was clearly the beginning of a career that took off like a rocket from this point. So ultimately, I would give this album a letter grade of an A minus. I really think that this album is dope. I think that, you know, even with I Know It, I keep on going back to I Know It. Even with that song, you know, you can just dismiss that song and you still have seven very strong tracks that you can just listen to on repeat. You can put them in like a shuffle. You know, any one of them could come up and you would just enjoy listening to any of them. So yeah, I think this album definitely deserves a letter grade of an A minus. Yeah, and I think it's a classic. I think this is a template that, you know, the acts that came after her could look to and kind of, you know, draw inspiration from and build on and, you know, kind of model themselves after. But how do you feel? How do you feel about the Madonna album? Leave me some comments, like and subscribe, and until next time, peace.